Hi, Doug Schrift here with Eldergym. I am so excited for this podcast to introduce Debra Schubert. She's a movement specialist. We're going to find out what that means coming up next. Okay, I'm here with Debra Schubert. Thanks for coming on to the Senior Fitness Radio. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Doug.
So what is a movement specialist?
Well, it's a term, it's a new term, and it has a lot of background behind it. My background began with being a professional dancer. Then I integrated physical therapy into my certification. But then I wanted to bring back my dance background, so I embarked on certification in Pilates Methodology. So I'm certified and considered a master trainer in Pilates education.
What is Pilates?
Pilates is a mind-body system. So the methodology behind it was started by Joseph Pilates, who originally came to the United States as an immigrant from Germany. He developed the system with infirm soldiers after World War I who were very ill, and he actually created the now very famous reformer machine working as a prototype with these soldiers because they were sick, they didn't breathe very well. So he used springs and sort of the mattress on the bed to create resistance exercises to rehabilitate the soldiers to become stronger in their breathing and have more control in their body.
Wow, so it started out as a rehabilitative type of
It
therapy.
did. Mm-hmm. It did. And then he came to New York City and he embarked on refining the system, working with more elite athletes and dancers. And from there, the system grew and developed, and he created multiple pieces of equipment that had resistance springs, and it allowed people to strengthen their bodies with an idea of breathing, centering, concentration, which means being able to follow a lot of different cues from your instructor so your body would work more in a more organized way. And as you got more sophisticated and control of your body, the movements became more dynamic and more fluid.
Wow, sounds very fundamental for your just posture and strength and all that stuff.
It really helped. It really helped, and it continues to help people recover from injury, develop more strength, understand how to move in space, excuse me, and become aware of their bodies. And that's one of the biggest things is in daily life, we lose the natural awareness that we had as children. And so as we age, we forget. And Pilates is a system that allows you to reconnect to movements that you always did when you were younger and recover them and incorporate them into your lifestyle.
Wow, sounds great. So how did you get involved with movement specialists, Pilates, and what are you doing now with the public?
Okay, that's a big question. So after doing physical therapy and working in hospitals and sports medicine clinics and getting people who had surgeries and heart operations kind of more functional, which means being able to get out of bed and go to the bathroom and work in the kitchen and clean their houses, I felt like I wanted to do more. I wanted to help people get beyond just daily living. I wanted them to understand there was much more to how to use their bodies and stay stronger and functional and more fit. So in my dance career, I had been exposed to Pilates mat exercises early on, and I decided to find a training, which was back in 1998, and it was not very popular then. So I went through a mat training, and then I did what's known as the apparatus training, which is using the Pilates equipment, which really gives a biofeedback to your body to, it's like biofeedback. You're just learning how to sense and feel how things are more awake and working better. Wow. And currently today, I own my own studio in Santa Rosa, California. It's called Pure Movement Studio. And I work with people on a one-to-one basis. They come into my studio with requests and goals, issues of balance, recovering from sports injuries, recovering from surgeries, pain. And we go through a process of where I assess them sort of in a postural way, discover where they're weak, and utilize not only Pilates, I do other methodologies, which maybe we won't get into today, but posture, yoga, this other unusual system called the gyrotonic expansion system.
Ouch.
Ouch. And help people, and I choose and pick from the many modalities that I'm trained and knowledgeable in, and apply exercises that are pertinent to that individual to help them recover the strength and connections that they need to feel better in their body, have less pain, more stability, and comfort, so that they can enjoy their lives outside of my studio.
Wow. So I'm 72, well, I'm not really 72, but if I'm a 73-year-old female, I've never really exercised, and I went to your studio, what would you do first if I just walked right in? What would you do to help me with my strength? I feel my strength is getting bad. I feel my balance is getting bad. What kind of movement specialist instruction would you give somebody like that?
Well, before I jump into strength training and specific exercises, I normally will always teach people about breathing, because we lose our ability to breathe deeply, and the Pilates methodology really emphasizes breath and movement. So when we learn how to breathe around our rib cage, we learn how to have better posture. So I work with some fundamental exercises of introducing people to their breathing. Maybe I'll look at you when you're sitting and I'll ask you to kind of lean back or arch forward, and I want to have a sense of how your hips and your pelvis, which is down here, is mobile. I'll look at your feet. I'll ask you to do some balance things to determine what's strong, what's weak, and I'll look at your mid-back and your neck. And from there, after we do the breathing, I'll start working on smaller muscles. So Pilates, the thing that's probably very, very different outside of the world of strength is they try to get you to feel both your smaller muscles and your bigger muscles, so you have control of your trunk and your pelvis. And that's really what core means, like how to connect your foundation, which are your feet, your legs, and your pelvis, to your rib cage and your upper body.
Could you demonstrate that on me, like if I'm a client?
Yes, I could. So I might have you sit down to start. And one thing I might say to you is put your feet on the floor, because we want to have the ground forces informing your legs. So we don't want your feet dangling. And I might say, sit up as tall as you can and be as relaxed as you can. And what I want to see, Doug, is can you tilt back on your butt bones, just like slump.
Slumping? Yeah, I can slump.
But not so much with your chest. I really want just the bottom part of you. I want to see how much you can slump back. Okay, you do that really well. Now come back up to center. Center is neither slumping or arching. And now I'm going to ask you to arch your back. So one of the things with your lower back is you have to be able to get a natural curve which has a little bit of an arch to stand up properly. So I'm looking at how much mobility your spinal column, your lower spinal column, and your hips have to begin. Some people have no idea how to do that. They'll push their back out or they'll push their cheeks forward, and that's not really telling me a lot about how their spine moves. So I'm looking for how the spine moves versus how somebody pushes or launches themselves.
Yeah, like my whole back and my pelvis
Right.
were going backwards.
So you're learning some control here on how to just move your lower part without anything else changing. So that's the control part of Pilates. You're learning how to separate movements, and you're going, well, I don't know how to do that. And then I'll work with you maybe lying down. Or I might just say, okay, so think of a string coming through the top of your head and sit really tall, and imagine that the length in your spine. Take a big breath in. Exhale, and then I want you to keep your chest lifted but tilt your pelvis back. See, that's not easy for Doug.
Yeah.
And then I may have him take another breath and lightly have him arch his back. Yeah. So I'm learning a little bit about Doug. He needs some work here. So that might be the first thing I do. The second thing I might have him do before he lies down is I would demonstrate, but I could also just talk to him, and I'm going to have him wrap this towel, or the client who came in. I'd say, hold the towel, and I call these the tails, and let your arms just relax. Actually, hold it a little closer to your rib cage, because you actually want to make like a corset. You want to make it tight, because what I want to have him learn is that I want him to try to take a breath into the side of the towel, take an inhale,
Oh, yeah.
and try to really expand your ribs, like you're creating a lot of space, and then relax and as you exhale.
I can really feel that. That's interesting. Wow.
And a lot of people, when they don't breathe properly, they raise their shoulders. And that's called an accessory type of breathing. You're using neck muscles. And we really want to discover how to breathe with the rib cage.
I can really feel the towel around my rib cage.
Yeah, so it creates a
really
compression.
It's a good cue. It's
Oh,
really a
good.
good cue. I like that.
And then I would say, we try it a few more times. So now this time I want you to try to take another inhale, and also think about breathing into the back of your ribs. Your rib cage is like a barrel. It's three-dimensional. And then I might say, relax. So I would say, let your shoulders just drop. Feel like I have weight on there. There you go.
That's about all they drop here.
That's okay. So that's like a beginning, because if you don't know how to breathe, you're going to tense and overuse the wrong muscle. So I'm trying to teach people some preliminary things that used to be natural, and now we have to reintroduce it.
So, yeah, as kids, you probably know this as kids, and it's all natural. Probably.
Kids, we don't have to think about it as children. And unfortunately, as we get older, it's like dusty files. They're in there, but we have to recover them.
Well, we lose all that cartilage, turns to bone over time. So I know the front starts turning to bone, and a lot of it gets pretty stiff. So it gets harder to do all this stuff.
Well, the breathing's like a slinky, too. So the more we breathe, it's like an accordion. Everything lengthens, your whole spinal column, and all the joints and the discs in your spine are getting hydrated. And then as you exhale, it's pushing out the bad air and the things that are kind of sitting in our bodies.
Wow.
So breathing's very important.
All right, so you take me through the intro, then what do you do after this?
So I might actually have you lie down on the table. Pilates methodology, and we're going to kind of use that today, Joseph Pilates' idea was to take gravity out of the picture, which gravity is an invisible force, but it's pushing weight down. So he would have you lie on your back, and what I'd have the person do and you do is I'm going to have you bend your knees, and I'd have your hands reaching along past your hips, and sometimes I'd kind of lift your shoulder blade up.
Yeah, get around there.
And then, okay. So before we give you any specific cues, I just have you have a sense of your feet. I'd say feel your feet.
Mm-hmm.
Feel the back of your hips. And I'd say there should be a little curve under your lower back. That's a little too much. It's just enough where I could slide one finger
slide
in.
under, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we don't want the back flat into the table. We want to have a little lift under there. I want the person to feel that they have their ribs heavy on the table, the back of the ribs. And I might give you, like I'd say, don't let me lift you up. Feel the weight. Yeah. Right?
Push down a little
And
bit.
then I would say, think of your collarbones like a wide hanger, and let's imagine we can be wide and down.
That's tough for me.
Yeah, it is tough for you. You're not used to that. And you have like most men are really strong in their pecs, and it will actually pull your shoulders forward. But it also comes from working on computers and sitting a lot and poor
Right.
posture.
Oh, yeah.
So it can happen from two different perspectives. And then I'd just say, let your neck have a natural curve as well. So I just want to invite you to take a breath and breathe in. See if you can imagine you're breathing all the way in from the back of your ribs,
Into my stomach.
not into your stomach. That's what's interesting in Pilates, because when we distend our belly, although that provides a relaxing breath and good for when you're under stress, for training your abdominal wall, we want to try to breathe sideways into the rib cage like we did with the towel. And then when you exhale, I'm going to have you breathe out like you're blowing a bubble, like magic bubbles. Feel like your ribs are really coming together, the front ribs. And feel your body just settling down on the table. So right now I'm just working with the breath. So let's do it one more time. Breathe in. Feel the back of your ribs getting air and expand. That was beautiful.
A good one.
That was good. And then start to exhale, and like on a count of 3. Feel where my thumbs are, and it's imagine the front ribs trying to pull towards each other. Good, and your shoulders are going to stay wide and open while you do that.
Bring them up.
And this is challenging for people. But I just try to encourage them because it's all new and different.
Should I do this every day, like in bed?
Yeah,
Before
you
the day
can.
starts, or-
This is a nice way to start. It takes practice because it's very. Go ahead and breathe into your belly. Yeah, so that's very normal for people. That's how they mostly breathe. But we're trying to learn a different way of breathing now.
Kind of expanding the chest.
We're expanding
sideways.
the chest, and okay, so then the second part of the intro to Pilates methodology to organize your abdominal wall on the bottom to the upper abdominals in your rib cage is I'd have you breathe in and breathe out, exhale, and feel your ribs. And at the very bottom of the exhale, I want you to try to feel like your pelvic floor muscles are drawing up along your belly button, like it's going up. So
Tightening up the...
yeah, you're pulling the lower belly up, like it's going up like an elevator towards your ribs. So this is lifting up, and the ribs are coming down, and you're getting this connection. There's more. Breathe in one more time.
More.
One more time, breath in, and now exhale. Really push that air out, and at the very bottom, try to just draw the lower belly up and in. And then I want you to imagine you have a belt here and draw the hip bones towards each other without moving your back.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
So that's your lower abdominals, and it's like a belting system. So that's the first thing I might teach people because it's very unique and very different, but it starts to organize your core.
Right, which is so important.
Okay, and then I would just say to Doug, let's try to do that pelvic tilt. So I'd have you breathe in again. A lot of breathing. Start to exhale. Pull up on the pelvic floor and the lower belly and tuck your tail under and feel like your hips are rolling back. Now he might feel his lower back really moving towards the table. So this stretches your lower back. Inhale again. Exhale, and then tilt your tailbone down like you're a happy dog. Arch your back a little bit. Right. This is very important for loosening up your back in in the morning.
It's really ingraining control in that whole area.
Correct.
Yeah.
The other thing I might have, so I'd have you do that. Then the second or third thing I might have you do is what I call knee walks. So I'd have you reach one knee forward and then the other side.
Interesting.
And this is like the beginning of walking. So it's teaching your body how to get the feeling of how your legs and your pelvis move.
I can really feel that in my hips.
Yeah,
It's an interesting move going back and forth.
that's right.
And this is
This is simulating a little bit of walking. It's bringing one hip bone back and the other one forward. And this is what happens in walking without the balance issues yet.
right.
Okay? Then I would maybe have you bring your feet together. Try to imagine you have a little ball here, and you're going to still try not to tighten your back. And again, a control thing. I want you to put a little pressure into your feet. And now your legs are going to go side to side. So this is going to create some rotation in your lower back. Because we need to, can you feel that?
Yeah.
Okay, it's also loosening up your hip joints because they're like oars in a boat.
So this would be a good one for people who have back problems.
It's very good with back problems.
So I'm just oscillating back and forth,
Right.
and I'm trying to keep my back on the ground, or my
I usually go much slower, but for the demonstration purposes, we're doing that. Then I'd have you separate your feet again. And what I might have you do is just trying to lift one foot up off the table, like you're marching, and then down. So take a breath in, and then exhale. Try to get the control. That's what Pilates is about. You're moving your legs from your center, and this is your center right here.
Yes.
So you're learning, like there's like a little ball right in here, and your back is relaxed, and you don't have to wiggle waggle. So Doug, lift your right leg up. And imagine you had no control. He might tilt all the way over like that. But we want to feel like that leg can come up without any movement elsewhere in the body.
Should I be contracting my abdominals?
A little
during this
bit.
time?
So, oddly enough, some people, if I got an athlete who is too tight and they were overworking their abdominal wall, I might tell them to relax. But usually most seniors need a little more control here.
So this is loosening up my hips. Probably great for sciatica too, I'll bet.
Yeah, as long as there's not a herniated disc.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, and then the other part that's really important is the ankles for balance. So I might have you lift your toes up like 10 times. Just start to get the ankles to move. I really want to warm up the whole body. And you're breathing, in this case, just naturally, trying not to hold your breath. Okay, and then you're going to do the opposite. Press your toes down and just lift the heels. I might slide your feet back a little more.
It's harder to do when your feet are up.
Yeah, it's harder to do. So that's my job, to help instruct where the best position is. And then I would ask him, like playing a drummer, if he could alternate tapping up and down. There we go.
Alternate.
Yes? Nice job.
Wow, that's interesting, doing it laying down like that.
Doesn't it feel easier?
In a way it does, yeah. Probably be easier sitting up, but this way here I can feel more hamstrings.
That's right. And the hamstrings are really important for your balance in your back. And most people use their quads too much. And we want to strengthen the hamstrings to stand up, because we're
balance.
For balance.
Yeah, because these are usually the big muscles.
And then if we had enough time in a session, what I'd start to do is teach people how to lift their back up, like a little bridge. So take a breath in, breathe out, draw the belly in, keep your back in neutral, and feel like you're just levitate, and then I want your knees to reach up. So just get that feeling of reaching. Now, to come down, I want you to keep your back exactly at the same time, at the same level, and then just crease at your hip joint like you're going to sit down at the table. There you go, and then come down. You felt yourself working, right?
Yeah.
So this is a really important exercise for preliminarily standing up. These muscles are what take people into an upright posture.
Like a bridge.
Yep. And then coming up.
How high should I lift my hips?
No, your hips should be lower than your rib cage. So if you went really too high up, you don't need to be that high. You kind of want to be at a level plane. And then coming down.
Well, like, boy, you can feel that.
Yes, and then another simple thing I might have you do is reach your fingertips towards your feet. Right, and that pulls your shoulder blades. I want them wide and feel like you're reaching from back here.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of, do it wrong, Doug, like roll your shoulders. That I don't want. I want you to start to feel your shoulder blades sliding down and the arms reaching through the fingertips. Then we might feel the arms lift and turn the palms towards each other and let your shoulder blades really drop into the table. Oh, beautiful. Because most of us are just overreaching.
They were definitely in the wrong place.
So we're still trying to wake up the back of the body as you're moving through space. So I might have you bring your arms overhead and keep feeling those shoulder blades go down. That's right.
All right.
And I want to see how far can you go overhead without your ribs or your back arching.
Ooh, probably not very far.
That's fine. Take a breath in. So I'm going to pull on Doug's arms. So start to slide your shoulder blades down. And then feel how the shoulder blade movement dropping down brings the arms back to the start position.
All right, yep.
As opposed to using these muscles, which tend to get tight and weak. And then I'd have you go all the way down. Take a breath in. Open the chest a little more. Beautiful. Think of reaching through the pinky side of your hand and then float the arms up by both arms together. Let the shoulder blades drop as they're going overhead. Yep,
Right.
You see how many cues we need?
I know, I forget that one.
Beautiful. Take a breath in. Now exhale. Slide the shoulders down. There you go. And then you feel the muscles here pulling the arms down with the shoulder blades.
Right.
Did you feel a difference?
Yeah. I tend to want to bring them out like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing. Boy,
So
that's a lot of little cues for posture.
it's a lot of little cues. So then if we were to come up, which we will do now, and let's move this. But if I had you sit at the edge of the table, and we just did, so we want to have that alignment, that your ears over your shoulders over your ribs over your pelvis, and your ankles right under your knees, so that if we were to do that little arch in the back and we start to keep the torso lifted, then we're able to come straight up and stand up.
Right. With a little hip hinge, right?
It's a hip hinge. I mean, this is very rudimentary. It's usually much more detailed, and I would probably put somebody on the Pilates equipment then, or a ball, depending on the dynamic needs of the person.
To do some strengthening.
To do some strengthening.
How about posture? Can you give me some posture cues? Like if I stood here, would you be able to
Yes.
do some standing posture cues? Let me put this over here.
Let's move it
So
over.
generally, I think
So-
seniors, we tend to be a little bit more forward.
Right.
I tend to do this all the time. My shoulders are forward, and
So what I
always
might
have
do,
to remember to straighten up a little bit.
well, what I want people to know is that we don't just pull the shoulders back and try to, that's what I call a military stance. We want to find the balance of the spinal column, which is shaped like an S. The lower back has a curve that arcs in. The upper back generally would hump out a little bit, and the neck has a little curve. Doug has little different variations here, which is not uncommon as we age. But what I might have him do is bend his knees a little and just see if he could even do a pelvic tilt like there and under, and then find neutral, which is somewhere in between. So his shoulders are really forward, I'm going to say roll your shoulders up and back and feel your shoulder blades drop and let your arms just hang by your sides. If your arms are really far forward, it indicates that your chest is pulling too much. So we want to feel like the shoulder blade muscles are hugging the back of your rib cage and feeling like they drop down towards your lower back.
And that's a big problem with me, and I think with a lot of seniors, is shoulders forward.
It's a big problem for even young people who are sitting at desks. It comes from not standing up enough. And this is pretty good. I might have you think about there's somebody pulling behind your ears. And then for seniors, people tend to look down. I really encourage them to look on the horizon. And your eyes would go up a little bit more. And that brings a natural curve into your neck. You feel a difference?
Yeah. Are my shoulders back enough?
They're better.
A little better.
Well, I don't want you to be really stiff, and posture is dynamic. It does not change just by fixing things in place. I often want to encourage people to go into their slump and then recover what they're doing. And I will say, well, try to remember this, like when you're shopping or if you're getting gas or you're brushing teeth. It's something that you have to remind yourself to feel, because inevitably it's going to go back to the way it usually goes to.
Right.
So your brain needs that signal to remind the body how to come back to those postures. It's a brain to body connection.
So I could start on the bed in the morning.
Yes.
And kind of do the routine that you had me do, which is thinking about my
breathing.
Bringing my chest out instead of my belly up, bringing my chest out, having my feet flat on the bed.
With the knees bent.
With knees bent.
And the reason why that's really important is when the legs are straight out, it actually arches your back quite a bit. So this is called hook lying position, and it just allows your back to find a more relaxed, natural curve that you have. So most people want to just practice with their legs straight, but it's actually effective for changing your lower back and also strengthening your hip muscles. So it makes the outside and the inside of your legs work, which are muscle strengtheners. Because when you're there, if they're weak, the legs are going to fall out to the side. They're going to open.
So then I can progress to some bridges.
Yes, we did the pelvic tilt. We did the knee walks.
Knee walks, right.
We did the rocking side to side to get some rotation. We did the marching, lifting one leg up. We did ankle movements, toes up and then heels up. And then we alternated. And we did bridges as like the big kahuna move for starting to wake up the glutes and the hamstrings.
That's kind of a nice routine for the morning.
It's a way to wake up your body after you've been sleeping and dormant, and bringing some energy back into your lower body, because that's what you're going to be needing to stand up with.
Right. Yeah.
And then the arms moving around also helps kind of let the chest and the ribs, and then the breath will work better too.
And then when we stand up, just make sure our posture is correct. Make sure our knees are a little bit soft.
Another thing I would tell seniors to do is like go to the kitchen counter and hold on to the kitchen counter and do the hip hinge and just start to feel like you're sitting back. Because then it's starting to connect your shoulder muscles, and it's teaching you how to get mobility in your hips and your pelvis. Yeah, that's perfect.
So if I get a chair,
but we really want to use something that's stationary, so
a little bit higher,
so you're stable.
So I would just.
Yep, and then stand back up and try to lift. Bring this a little closer to you. Okay, so really start the movement from the bottom. So you're thinking about the hip butt bones reaching back, like you're going to really sit in a chair.
Oh, like I'm reaching back. Yep.
You're reaching.
I'm
Whoops.
gonna fall back.
Okay. Yep. And then when you stand up, imagine there's like a wind coming up from the bottom of your butt to bring you upright. Nice.
Yeah, wow.
So you're a little.
So pushing my bottom back.
Stick your butt out a little more.
Yeah.
a lot of times what happens is we really lose the strength in the lower back and the glutes and the mobility in the spine to even create this movement.
Right. I
When
tend,
you're
tend to not want to go back that far.
Yes, but
I tend to want to go down straight.
and you could see then if as you're doing that your knees are driving over your toes, and we really don't want that. This movement is teaching your ankles, your knees, and your hips how to work together as a team, so that when they should work together. So the weight and the work is distributed.
Yeah, that's very good.
It's functional.
Right, sticking that back. Yeah, great. Wow, that's pretty good. So how about some strengthening exercises you could do, maybe with a chair or without any weights
Sit to stand.
for your legs? Sit to stand. That's one of my favorites. Everybody knows that. So just standing up.
Well, what we want to do is get your alignment again with your posture. You want to sit close to the edge of the chair. We want this letter L. And you have to really look at your feet. We don't want the feet duck-footed nor pigeon-toed. You lose mobility in your ankles when that alignment isn't present.
Straight.
Yep. So you can see there's an L from the side to your knee down to the leg. It's a perfect 90-degree L. If you're really tall, you may need a bigger chair. If you're really short, you may need to do some propping. So what I would have you do is, without dropping your chest, hinge forward. Okay, so heads up. Bring your chin in. So we want to just really, right, and you're going to go as far forward as you can, and then try to stand up.
Have to really push.
There. Is that hard? That was good reaching back. That's a low chair. I mean, it's
Low chair, yeah. Might
really,
have to push
really
up with
low.
it.
That was good. It's better with arms. You know, this
Right.
is a chair that actually, without any arm support, if you don't have the strength, you're going to need a chair that you can push off with.
And push off, yes, excellent.
And the other, as a person gets really stronger, you can bring the arms in front of you. Hold them out in front of you. So bring your torso forward without your shoulder. Now see if you can get your shoulder blades down.
Yeah. It's
So
hard.
hip hinge, go forward. Good. Start to lift your lower abdominals. Yes. Did you feel how that's a little harder with the
Yeah, it
arms
is,
out?
Yeah.
And then if we really want to progress, see
Right.
your arms and legs are like weights. They're natural levers. That looked easier.
Great exercise, I know.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, with your arms out, gives you a little bit of counterbalance, so you can come forward a little bit more.
For balance, I might have people sit on a ball because it's dynamic. And we don't have a ball here, unfortunately, but that's also a really good way to have people discover where their center is, because it will really show you if you have to lean to the left or the right, and we want your brain to figure out really where the middle is.
Right, yeah, absolutely. How about some tips for upper body strengthening? Do you use weights or do you use body weight? I do have
At
some
the
weights.
studio, I use my machines.
Yeah.
But to simulate at home, I would actually teach people, well, on the table, I might put, let me think about that quickly. So for standing, since we're standing up right now, what I might have you do, Doug, is just begin to kind of feel like you're in a plank. And we're going to roll the shoulders back. And we're going to try not to lean in the hips.
No English.
We're going to try to really push back with the back of the legs and the buttocks. And that's good. And then I'm going to actually bring you up more like that. Try to feel your shoulders come down.
Yeah, it's
a little
harder than
more.
I thought it was, yeah.
So Douglas wanted to do this, and his lower back's now weak. So by bringing him back, his shoulder blades are lining up, and his back muscles are really strengthening now, as are his shoulder blades. And I might have him try to roll. There you go. And going back to the Pilates cues, we would say, think about the front of your hips, making a line right up to the front of the ribs. Yeah.
And I just hold this position?
Yeah, you hold, you can work up to a minute.
Wow.
You can work, or you can do it against a wall.
Right.
You can do it against a wall as well.
And just hold it there. Yeah. Wow. Boy, that is a really good one. I like that one.
Do you?
It's kind of just like a high plank almost.
It's
right?
a high plank.
Yeah.
And you could do it against a kitchen sink, or, I mean, counters are great.
Yep. Counters are great. Or if you have a table. How about some balance activities? What would you do for balance?
Holding on, marching. First, to
that's a
just
good one.
get some mobility, I would have them start doing some. How high can they bring their legs up without switching? Because the standing leg has to strengthen the side of the glutes.
Right.
So right now your chest is dropping. So think about your posture and
Right.
look up on the horizon. Yep, and see how high that leg can lift.
And I cannot hold on if I'm really brave.
Yes.
So I don't go too fast, just a nice...
Yeah, a nice steady rhythm. You want to not do it with your lower back tucked under. You want to have that natural curve so that your glutes are working.
I do it sideways so everybody can see me here. So just lifting one up and then the other as high as I can.
As high as you can, because it actually, once the leg comes really high, it's starting to stretch the lower back as well. So it's both stretching and strengthening while bringing balance in.
Wow.
The other, okay, so the other thing that I really will do with people, depending on their balance, is sometimes I put I'll have them walk just one foot in front of the other. And I'll have them stand on small balls that are domed to stretch their ankles and their feet, because as we get older, the ankles get really, really stiff. And it is the primary mechanics to signaling the back of your brain, which is where balance is getting message to. And you can just have them try to walk. And I actually am a believer of forward and back, multiple planes,
Right.
going sideways.
Oh, that's even harder. Yeah.
And then and then just standing there. Now this is standing with your feet hip width apart with the eyes closed. Okay, but hold on to something, and then as you get more confident, you put your feet together because your center of gravity is getting more challenged.
Right, bringing those feet in, right.
Yes,
Yeah,
and then trying
harder.
I always say it's okay to sway like a tree. That's really where balance is, but we don't want to fall.
Don't want to fall.
We want to feel, what happens with our balance is you're not supposed to be rigid. You want to feel like you're sort of on a boat and feel that rocking in your ankles. And get used to the feeling so that you can develop your reflexes and respond.
So even just swaying a little bit is probably a good thing.
Swaying is good. You can make circles. I would actually have them just weight shift and see if they can. And the cue I would say is push your foot into the floor and shift your weight over. Feel your foot really press like you're standing into sand. And make the movement happen from your feet and your ankles while standing very vertical in your good posture. And it becomes very natural.
Yeah, this is actually, it's very gentle, but you can really feel it.
Good.
You know, I can feel just the cueing of pushing your foot into the ground.
That's a really
other
important
side.
cue. People, you think because you're standing that your feet are pressing, but often they're not.
I know, yeah.
And we're in shoes a lot. And if you don't have feet problems, I really encourage people to be barefoot a little bit so that they can have the feedback. into their nerves and their muscles and their
'cause
joints.
what I'm feeling now is, because I have bare feet, I feel myself pushing on the right, and now pushing down on the left, and I also feel my ankles going back and forth.
Exactly.
So I'm working on my ankle strength and just the proprioception of knowing where you are. Can I go forward and back, or would that be too much?
What do you mean?
This way
Yes.
and back?
Yes, because as you go forward, your back muscles have to hold you
Right.
from falling forward, and then as you rock back on your heels, your core muscles have to hold you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're having a conversation with the front and the back of your body to wake up and work.
Yeah, we are turning on some brain things here with this.
So
balance.
Pilates,
Yes.
yoga, gyrotonic, it's about signaling your body to your brain, your thinking, your feeling. It's not just what we call motor skills. You're developing brain skills or sensing. And the balance stuff has a lot to do with proprioception, which is knowing where you are in space.
Right.
They're fancy words. You don't need to know them, but they are things that we naturally do, and through the exercises, it's informing those mechanisms in your body and your brain.
Right. How about like rotational movements? I know those get harder as we get older because we just get stiffer. It gets harder to rotate. What kind of rotational tips can you give me?
So what I might have people, I think now as we're kind of working on balance and stuff, I would separate the legs more into a lunge. And what I want people to learn is first how to turn. So the front leg is in a bend, and that front leg pushes you back and then turns your body. So see if you can think of turning your hips and then straightening the front leg and bending the back leg. Yes.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And then bending the front leg and turning the hips.
Oh, yeah.
And then coming back. And
Oh,
the
yeah.
chest doesn't really change. It's in the beginning it's going to feel like a jerky big movement, but if you think of the front of your hips like they've got headlights and you're turning the lights.
So keep my chest.
Keep your chest there
forward.
for now, because right now you're getting your rib cage is actually turning, but it's not initiated from there. It's coming from the bottom,
Right.
because that's where the balance is.
This is a great one. I like this one.
It comes from Tai Chi.
Yes, I can tell, yeah. So I'm turning my hips.
That's right. And you're also taking the weight from front to back.
Wow.
But how does that feel, Doug?
It's interesting. I think I need to start Tai Chi, because Tai Chi is actually wonderful for seniors.
And Tai Chi also is a part of the gyrotonic expansion system because it has a lot of rotational movement.
Interesting.
So I'm just breaking down an aspect of it.
Yeah, I like that because it's teaching me to rotate.
Right. So we don't just turn the chest and then crank the hips.
Right.
We're pushing from the feet. So the front foot pushes and I turn and I sit down into that cheek, and then the back foot pushes and turns the hips, and I load the weight into the front. Can you feel that change?
Right. I've never had any Tai Chi lessons, but I think this is the first one probably. Yeah. That's
So
nice.
this is the movement specialist exporting yet another tool.
So we're learning to turn our hips independent of our upper body.
That's
or
right.
Initiating
Well,
first from the hips.
you don't think about the upper body, but rotation is happening. You don't have to think about it. It's occurring because the lower body is carrying us and the torso naturally turns. Because when we walk, there's natural rotation in the torso just from the pelvis shifting its weight. These things are very natural. You don't have to just force the turning. If we get the movement from the foundation, the upper body follows. And if you were really stiff, what I might have you do is just swing.
So just do some.
Just do some, let the arms hang and see if you can feel and look out on the horizon and just let your rib cage turn. Let your arms be heavier.
Heavy arms.
There you go. Can you feel the rotation?
Now I can. Yeah.
Yeah, just so the arms aren't helping. They hang from the shoulder blades and live inside the shoulder joints, and it's the rib cage and the spine that creates the rotation. And the hips are moving, but it's all happening at once. It's very dynamic.
Right. This one would be really good for just initiating the walking sequence.
It is good.
Yeah.
And then as you get fancier, you can push off from one foot. And see, so now your ankles are working. See if you can come
Right.
up on one toe.
I like this one, yes.
Let your eyes look a little more towards me. Right, so let your eyes see the horizon.
Oh.
We stop looking. The eyes are super important for balance.
Right.
Really see the room, see
at the
everything around you. I tell people, look at my artwork, look at the pretty colors, look at the sun.
And look all around. Huh?
As we start to get more afraid, which comes with not having good balance, we stop looking out.
How about all these great tips we're learning today? How about a big problem as you get older is picking things up off the floor. It sounds silly, but I do get a lot of questions about I can't get down on the ground, I can't pick up things off the floor. What are some exercises that could get us a little bit more comfortable with reaching towards the ground, or even getting on the, well, let's not go to getting on the ground. Let's maybe work with maybe reaching. Certainly holding on to something.
So say some of your
good.
seniors are gardeners, right? People who garden. Or, yeah, you want to get something off the floor. What I try to educate people about is that in indigenous cultures or people who are more agrarian, they're bending over all the time. So it's about the hips. And the plank that we did and the bridges that we did, we want to work on, now we're going to stand up and we're going to learn that hip hinge and go wider and try to reach down.
So bring my legs a little bit wider.
Yes. And stick your butt out. So again, you're hip hinging.
Right, hip hinging.
Put your hand on there
I
if you
always-
need to and see.
I always forget to stick my bottom out.
And that's what happens from sitting. We're all tucked under.
Ah.
And we want to be able to keep our back safe and strong by hip hinging, not by...
So it's more in the hips than the knees. So
It's all in the hips and the ankles. The knees follow the movement of the hips and the ankles.
So I'm reaching down to pick up the piece of paper.
Yeah, so reach way back.
So I need to
Reach
bring my
way.
bottom back a little bit more.
Yep. Yeah, and then your
My
hand,
leg.
your hand can reach in front of you. So feel like the hand's reaching down for something,
Right.
and you'll feel that.
That's interesting. So for me, what I felt was like I would try to go like this,
Right, you're tucking.
but your cueing is to bring your bottom back farther, use more of the hips.
We're using, it's all in the hips and the strength of and the mobility in the spine. It's not just strength, it's that the spine has to have some mobility. So in the beginning, you just start to work towards it to increase that movement.
So legs apart,
Maybe your toes turned out a little bit,
toes turn out,
slightly, yep.
and then bring my bottom back and
Bottom back,
hinge from the hip.
yep, and keep reaching way back. Because usually if you're going to
yeah.
really reach for something, it's not going to be just between your feet. It's going to be out further in front of you.
Right.
More. That's right.
Wow. So I'm actually counterbalancing myself a little bit with my arms out front.
That helps.
That's a great tip. I love that one.
You're
Great for
welcome.
the seniors. Yeah.
I work with seniors and people who have bad knees or total hip replacements. Going down to the floor is super challenging. So it's something we work on as a progression. You know, I may have them hold on to a chair, and sometimes they can't get down to the floor. So, but we do, this is not contraindicated for total hip replacements, especially if you're leaning back and reaching out. And you want to maintain that mobility in the hip joint to help with maintaining the mobility.
That's a great one. How about one more tip?
What would you like? What can I provide for you?
Like, okay, I'm in my kitchen and I need to reach for something that's heavy and on a cabinet, like a heavy ceramic bowl. What kind of tips would you give me? I'm reaching up to grab it. Is there anything with my shoulder or anything you would advise that wouldn't be good to reach up?
Well, if you have shoulder problems, I really wouldn't advise reaching overhead. It would put a lot of load into your shoulder joint, and if you've had frozen shoulder or there's a rotator cuff issue or impingement, we want to bring those things more eye level, or chest level. So working more in front of you. You really have to ergonomically change your environment.
So try not to have anything too high.
I wouldn't strain to go too high, but a very basic mobility exercise is walking up the wall. Just see how far the arms can walk, hands can walk up.
So just kind of reach up on the wall.
Reach up, and then let your shoulder blades slide down your back and let the arms just kind of, it's like drawing a paintbrush down.
Wow, I like that one, yeah. So that'll actually help my shoulder. It'll increase them.
Yeah, so right now you're a little bit hanging into, okay, so bring your hips back. Right there, and we just don't want the tops of the shoulders rising up too much. So you're gonna only go as high as you can without over tightening your shoulders. And then slide your shoulder blades down first and feel how that moves your arms.
Oh, yeah. So I'm initiating from my shoulders
It's
first.
all, your shoulder blades are the wings of your back.
Wow,
And
I like
they are what moves best
Wow, that's a
to
big difference.
let your arms, and it kind of preserves the shoulder joint when you use this. And there's a lot more to it. I'm being very simple
Right.
here.
Because you definitely don't want to ruin your rotator cuff. So,
No, you don't.
So if I do more coming from the shoulder.
Yeah, so soften your knees a little bit because you're kind of like got a little bit too much of a arch back. There you go.
So when I'm reaching, keep my knees a little soft and
Yeah.
kind of initiate from the shoulder.
Yeah, can you feel like the front ribs can drop a little more? Yeah.
Right there, yep.
Yep.
I dropped my front ribs a little bit.
Yep, and that kept your shoulder blades in a better organization.
So that's protecting my shoulders a little bit more.
And it's organized, it's just it's aligning you better. So feel the front ribs drop, bend your knees a little more. There you go. And now start to feel the inside tips of your shoulder blades sliding. That was good.
Oh, wow, yeah, that's definitely. That's a really good tip. So when you're reaching for something, initiate from the shoulder a little bit more than
The shoulder blades.
shoulder blades, right?
The shoulder
Up and
blades.
down. Yeah, because that's a big problem for seniors is rotator cuff problem.
That's right. Because when we get rounded, we lose the strength of those isolated shoulder muscles.
Right.
And another really good one that I like for people, if I could show you from the back, is I call these shoulder circles. So the hands are, I call them a little bit of a stick 'em up position. And what I want people to do is just lift the shoulders up without moving the arms. Press into the fingertips. Now see if your shoulder blades can widen and then drop down.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So they're making circles, shoulder circles on the back of your ribs. And it's really hard, actually.
It is, yeah.
And you can go both directions. So go wide, up, squeeze them lightly together, and then drop them down. You can do about 3 or 5 in each direction. Very nice, Doug.
Wow, yeah. I can really feel that in the...
So that really teaches how the shoulder blade, how to move independently from the arm.
Right. Just the control of up and down, yeah.
Well done. That looks good on you.
Wow. Well, I think we've covered it. Boy, that was just pretty much everything. We covered head to toe with our movement specialist, Debra Schubert. Well, thanks so much for coming here. This was really, really enlightening, amazing stuff. A lot of great tips for movement for me as a physical therapist.
I hope it was helpful. I hope it was clearly communicated, and I hope everyone gets some good results with what we offered them.
Yeah, and you can definitely try this at home. So how can people find you on the web, and where are you located?
Okay. Thanks for asking. I'm located in Santa Rosa, California. It's Pure Movement Studio, and my website is puremovementpilates.com, and that's all one word.
And I'll put that under the show notes for today so that you guys can find that. Do you do any online coaching or anything at this point?
Not yet, but you can call, and I could certainly have a consult with you, and there's an email communication, so it's a starting point. It's kind of a local studio, but I'm able to, consult if you'd like that.
If you're in Santa Rosa, California, you are in luck. Well, thanks again, and thank everybody here. If you like this video, make sure you click on the subscribe button and
do it
and like us. Yes, and it really helps me out. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you in the next video.